All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to look at two separate poems. I'll try to do them both in the same video just to make it a little easier for you guys at home. Um, a little background to these poems, they're from what's called the Exeter book. Okay? We don't know anything about the authors or the poets who wrote these poems, but they are in this old book called the Exeter Book that was found. It's a manuscript of Anglo Saxon poems that were produced by one scribe around the year 950 AD. I'm not going to go much into the Exeter Book because we're just looking at two poems from it, but the poems are very good. And what I'm hoping to see, and we're going to point out a little bit, but what I really want you guys to see is um, I guess, the feelings of the Anglo-Saxon period. We talked in our introduction to the Anglo-Saxon period. These people were not happy people. There was little cause for happiness, little cause for um, relaxation. Basically, it's as simple as that. Life was hard. It was cold, dark, bleak. And today, hopefully, we're really going to see that in these two poems. So, with me, go to your textbook, page 108. Sorry about that. Like I told you about my phone, when something comes in, I can't pause you guys. And I'm just seeing we are under a storm surge warning. All right. Well, that's okay. We're all good. Okay, so page 108, we're going to look at The Wanderer. What I'll do is I'll just read a couple lines and then stop to discuss. There is a reading guide for the Exeter book, which I think I put up, and if I did, well, I'm doing the video before I give you the assignments. So if I do put the reading guide up, which I'm not sure if I will or not, go ahead and keep that by you. It's going to help you understand these poems. So, The Wanderer, page 108 of your textbook. Line 1. This lonely traveler longs for grace, for the mercy of God. Grief hangs on his heart and follows the frost cold foam he cuts in the sea, sailing endlessly, aimlessly, in exile. So, what do we know? What do we learn just in these first four or five lines in this poem? It's a lonely traveler, and he's looking for something. He has a desire for something, and that desire is for grace, for God's mercy to be given to him. Grief hangs on his heart and follows the frost cold foam he cuts in the sea. So he's on a ship, and notice that imagery. I bet as I read that, or as you read that alone, you could see that frost cold foam, the waves, the foam of the ocean that are following in his wake. He's sailing endlessly, aimlessly. It's almost as if he doesn't have a place to go. Why? Because he's in exile. If you don't know what the word exile means, go ahead and look it up. But he's been banished, he's been tossed aside, and now he's wandering. Perhaps he's looking for a new home. Perhaps he's just doesn't. Well, he is. He's wandering aimlessly. He doesn't know where he's going. Line 5. Fate has opened a single port, memory. He sees his kinsman slaughtered again, and he cries. I've drunk too many lonely dawns, gray with mourning. Once there were men to whom my heart could hurry, hot with open longing. They're long since dead. My heart has closed on itself quietly, learning that silence is noble and sorrow nothing that speech can cure. So here we get a little more background on the speaker, or on the subject of the poem. He has one thing that he can hold on to, and it's memory. And what does his memory tell him or remind him? He's seeing his kinsmen slaughtered again. So something happened in his village, something happened in his home. that caused all around him, his loved ones, his family, his friends, to be slaughtered. And his sorrow is so strong that nothing is comforting him. He is a wanderer. Line 14. Sadness has never driven sadness off. Fate blows hardest on a bleeding heart. So those who thirst for glory smother secret weakness and longing, neither weep nor sigh nor listen to the sickness in their souls. So I, lost and homeless, forced to flee the darkness that fell on the earth and my Lord. He was forced to flee. There's that exile. So he's alone, remembering the deaths of those who he loved, and we learn of his Lord. Leaving everything, weary with winter, I wandered out on the frozen waves, hoping to find a place, a people, a Lord to replace my lost ones. No one knew me now. No one offered comfort, allowed me feasting or joy. How cruel a journey I've traveled, sharing my bread with sorrow alone, an exile in every land, could only be told by telling my footsteps. For who can hear, friendless and poor, and know what I've known since the long cheerful nights, when young and yearning with my Lord I yet feasted, more welcome, most welcome of all. That warmth is dead. So now we're seeing a little shift in the poem. He's now talking a lot about his Lord. So perhaps he was at the service of this Lord on maybe a feudal, uh, not plantation, but plot of land. Okay, he worked for someone, his Lord, and he was his Lord's favorite. It seemed because he was the most welcome of all. Line 35. So we're sensing his loss. Line 36. He only knows who needs his Lord, as I do, eager and long missing aid. He only knows who never sleeps, without the deepest dreams of longing. Sometimes it seems I see my Lord, kiss and embrace him, bend my hands and head to his knee, kneeling as though he still sat enthroned, ruling his days. And I open my eyes, embracing the air, and see the brown sea billows heave. See the seabirds bathe, spreading their white feathered wings. Watch the frost and the hail and the snow. And heavy in heart, I long for my Lord, alone and unloved. Notice again the imagery of the bird who can fly away, who has community, the imagery of opening his eyes when he thinks he can imagine his Lord, that he's reunited with his Lord back in his service. But the imagery of opening his eyes and seeing the brown sea, watching the frost and the air, and the hail and the snow. Not good. He feels unloved and he longs for his Lord. Line 50. Sometimes it seems I see my kin and greet them gladly, give them welcome, the best of friends. They fade away, swimming soundlessly out of sight, leaving nothing. How do you feel about this poor wanderer? What's what's your take on this? Sorry about that. Are you getting that he's truly alone? That he misses everything? That something tragic happened? Line 52. How loathsome become the frozen waves to a weary heart. What does loathsome mean? If you loathe something, you hate it. So how loathsome become the frozen waves to a weary heart. He's not feeling good. He's not even happy on the water. Line 57. Sorry, 56. In this brief world, I cannot wonder that my mind is set on melancholy, because I never forget the fate of men, robbed of their riches, suddenly looted by death, the doom of earth, sent to us all by every rising sun. There's that Anglo-Saxon dark view of the world, nothing but pain, nothing but being robbed of your stuff, your riches, your life. Wisdom is slow and comes but late. He who has it is patient. He cannot be hasty to hate or speak. He must be bold and yet not blind, nor ever too craven, complacent or covetous, nor ready to gloat before he wins glory. The man's a fool who flings his boasts hotly to heaven, heeding his spleen and not the better boldness of knowledge. What knowing man knows not the ghostly waste-like end of worldly wealth? See, already the wreckage is there. The wind-swept walls stand far and wide. The storm-beaten blocks besmeared with frost. The mead halls crumbled, the monarchs thrown down and stripped of their pleasures. What's he talking about in these few lines? What's he addressing? He's addressing the fact that nothing on earth is permanent. That anything we have, the great mead halls, family, friends, a lord, worldly wealth, treasure, none of it is permanent. Nothing on this earth is permanent, the wanderer knows. And that's what he's addressing. Now, it's easier for him to say this because he's already lost everything. But it's a universal theme. Nothing on this world, nothing in this life is permanent. Everything can be taken away from us at the drop of a hat in the blink of an eye. Line 77. The proudest of warriors now lie by the wall. Some of them were destroyed. Some the monstrous seabirds bore over the ocean. To some the old wolf dealt out death, and for some dejected followers fashioned in an earth cave coffin. Thus the Maker of men lays waste this earth, crushing our callow mirth, and the work of old giants stand withered and still. So now he's addressing God, the Maker of men. The Maker of men has a way of laying waste this earth, meaning getting rid of everything that is our comfort. We're at the mercy of God, the wanderer is saying. Crushing our callow mirth, and if you use your side note, that's childish joy. The wanderer is saying, when we have everything, like his Lord, we have protection. When you have your treasure, whatever it might be, it's almost we are in that with childish joy. But God, the maker of everything, the one who gives us everything, can crush it all. And he often does. Line 86. He who these ruins rightly sees, and deeply considers this dark twisted life, who sagely remembers the endless slaughters of a bloody past, is bound to proclaim, where is the war steed? Where is the warrior? Where is his warlord? Where now the feasting places? Where now the mead hall pleasures? Alas, bright cup! Alas, brave knight! Alas, you glorious princes! All gone, lost in the night, as you never had lived. And all that survives you a serpentine wall, wondrously high, worked in strange ways. Mighty spears have slain these men, greedy weapons have framed their fate. Line 99. These rocky slopes are beaten by storms, the earth pinned down by driving snow, by the horror of winter smothering warmth in the shadows of the night. And the north angrily hurls its hailstorms at our helpless heads. Everything earthly is evilly born, firmly clutched by a fickle fate. Fortune vanishes, friendship vanishes, man is fleeting, woman is fleeting. and all this earth rolls into emptiness. So says the sage in his heart, sitting alone with his thought. It's good to guard your faith, nor let your grief come forth until it cannot call for help, nor help but heed the path you've placed before it. It's good to find your grace in God, the heavenly rock, where rests our every hope. So the wanderer starts off this poem by, exile, wandering aimlessly, missing his Lord and his creature comforts that he had. But he ends by acknowledging that who can rest us? And he's looking forward to heaven. Now that's it's a beautiful mix of the typical Anglo-Saxon period or feelings of the period of the time with the new, fairly new, I guess, concept of Christianity. It's a wonderful mix of the two. Not so much in the next poem, The Wife's Lament. Now, using what you know about Bible stuff, what is a lament? In our Christian Bible, in our Bible, we have the book of Lamentations. When you lament something, you're bitterly mourning it. Um, at a funeral, I hate to use this example, but it's just coming out of my mind. At a funeral, you might see that person who's really overcome by grief, who's, maybe standing at the casket, just screaming, yelling in pain and grief. They're lamenting. So the wife here is lamenting something. Before we start reading, I want you to notice on page 112, we're on page 112, sorry about that. I want you to notice two things. One, I don't have an image on the screen because I like the one in the book. Uh, Take a look at that. What do you think of the picture? It's a woman alone, um, kind of blurry. Keep this image in mind as we read The Wife's Lament, beginning on page 112. I also want you to notice the middle of the lines. There's that pause. Hopefully you remember that that's a caesura. A caesura is that breaking up in a poem in the middle of a line. Of a poem that helps the reader to memorize it, and it also makes the poem sound more balanced. Okay. All right. So page 112. Let's go ahead and read The Wife's Lament. I make this song about me full sadly, my own wayfaring. Okay, let's stop there. I know y'all hate when I do this so quickly, but we need to know what wayfaring means. Wayfaring, she's basically on a journey, just like the wanderer. She's on a journey. I am a woman, tell what griefs I had, since I grew up, new or old, never more than now. Ever I know the dark of my exile. So here again, we have a character in the poem who's been exiled. First my Lord went out, away from his people, over the wave tumult. I grieved each dawn, wondered where my Lord, my first on earth, might be. Then I went forth, a friendless exile, to seek service in my sorrow's need. My man's kinsmen began to plot by darkened thought to divide us two, so we most widely in the world's kingdom lived wretchedly, and I suffered longing. So who was against this woman? This woman's, her husband's kinfolk plotted to separate them. Let's see what happens. My Lord commanded me to move my dwelling here. I had a few loved ones in this land, or faithful friends. For this my heart grieves, that I should find a man well matched to me, hard of fortune, mournful of mind, hiding his mood, thinking of murder. So she left her own kinsman to move to a new land with her husband. And it's sounding like her husband is not who he is all cracked up to be, isn't it? Blithe with our bearing, often we vowed that but death alone would part us to naught else. But this is turned round now, as if it never were our friendship. I must far and near bear the anger of my beloved, the man who sent me out to live in the woods, under an oak tree in this den in the earth. Ancient this earth hall, I am all longing. The valleys are dark, the hills high, the yard overgrown, bitter with briars, a joyless dwelling. Full oft the lack of my Lord seizes me cruelly here. Friends that are on earth, living beloved, lying in bed, while I at dawn am walking alone under the oak tree through these earth halls. There I may sit the summer long day. There I can weep over my exile, my many hardships. Hence I may not rest from this care of heart, which belongs to me ever, nor all this longing that has caught me in this life. So she has been exiled, and she is bitter. She's wandering. She's in a strange land. She's living alone, and all she does is wander. She's in exile. She too, like the wanderer, has nowhere to go. I love this last stanza. Line 42. May that young man be sad minded always, hard his heart's thought, while he must wear a blithe bearing, with care in the breast a crowd of sorrows. That's her wish for him. That he may be sad minded always, that he have a heart full of sorrows. May on himself depend all his world's joy. Be he outlawed far in a strange folkland, that my beloved sits under a rocky cliff, rimed with frost, a lord dreary in spirit, drenched with water in a ruined hall. My lord endures much of my mind, he, meaning the she's constantly thinking about her husband. He remembers too often a happier dwelling. Woe be to them that for a loved one must wait in longing. So she is hoping that he is miserable after what he put her through. Hopefully, you enjoyed these two poems from the Exeter book. I know I did. They're two of my favorites. I'll be coming up soon with some assignments for you guys to turn in. Be thinking about these two poems and how they really show the to really show that the Anglo-Saxon period. Sorry, those characteristics of Anglo-Saxon life. How did they find their way into these two poems? Go on to Google Classroom and be on the lookout for any new assignments. I'll be giving you something. Next, we're going to be moving into the Canterbury Tales, and you will enjoy it. All right. If you need anything, you know how to reach out to me. Get my number from somebody. Email me, text me, send me a message on Google Classroom. By the way, if you send me a message on Google Classroom as a private comment, if I don't answer within like 2 or 3 hours, reach back out because I'm noticing sometimes I don't get notifications. But also, like if I'm teaching, I'll see the notification, I'll read it, and I might forget to answer. So I'm never ignoring you, obviously. So just you're not bothering me if you reach out again. If you need anything, be in touch. Until I see you again, God bless. Goodbye.